Good everybody, welcome. This is Paul Flynn of MegadoFilms.org for the 1st of October 2015. Just want to do a vlog tonight on this video, which is on the HRC website. The HRC is the Human Rights Campaign, which is very much for supporting the LGBT homosexual agenda, trying to change countries and views. Now, this is from the Clinton Global Initiative, and I'm just going to play this video, how they are joining together with some of the biggest companies in the world, Google, AT&T. Let's watch.
I'd like to first invite to the stage all the people participating in Open for Business, global companies supporting LGBT inclusion, and the Business Coalition for the Global Workplace Fairness. John Miller of the Brunswick Group, Peter Cohen-Milstein of Linklaters, Julio Rojas of Standard Chartered, Norbert Doer of McKinsey & Company, Tara Nathan of MasterCard, Chad Griffin of Human Rights Campaign, Jeff DeMarais of California Technologies, or Canadian Technologies, sorry, Scott Saperstein of AT&T. This is an interesting, I want to point this out. This is an interesting commitment for more than the substance. This is a commitment of people to improve their own workplaces. And I think that's very important. There's some in our foundation we talk about all the time. We shouldn't preach something we don't practice. We should continue to try to examine, re-examine, constantly demonstrate the kind of world we wish to create. The global landscape for the LGBT community is a patchwork, to put it mildly. There's been enormous progress in the United States and elsewhere, the vote in Ireland, but same-sex relations are still punishable by death in at least 7 countries. Global companies want to uphold their own values and ensure that their employees can enjoy the same basic rights and protections wherever they're stationed all around the world. Many businesses find it difficult to guarantee this to their employees across all their operations for understandable reasons. So the Brunswick Group and the Human Rights Campaign are separately making commitments to deal directly with fair business protections and practices for employees. Today, the Brunswick Group, their partners represented here, and including EY, Google, MasterCard, Virgin Group, and others, commit to create Open for Business, a consortium of companies with proven track records of anti-discrimination to promote the business and economic case for global LGBT inclusion and undertake outreach to engage and support allies in countries with anti-LGBT laws. The Human Rights Campaign, along with their partners here, in addition to Coca-Cola, Google, Microsoft, Procter & Gamble, and Symantec, is committing to create the Business Coalition for Global Workplace Fairness, an alliance committed to extending best-in-class LGBT-focused diversity and inclusion policies and practices to operations all around the world. The Human Rights Campaign will support the group by facilitating collaboration on diversity practices, creating learning opportunities, and working with their partners to bolster in-country advocacy and economic opportunity for the LGBT community. These business alliances will set the standard for corporate engagement in the promotion of the realization of equal rights for people all around the world. Let's give them a big hand.
So as you can see there, the Clinton Foundation and all these big, massive, huge companies, which will make it impossible. This is what's going to translate into impossible to be a Christian in those companies. Or, basically, if you're a Christian, well, don't say anything against homosexuals. I've I'm in English. I teach English as a foreign language, Monday to Friday every single week, and I think up until when I was teaching in Google up until last December, and I know how bad it is there, and it's very liberal. But here's the thing: how will it translate into that there's anti-discrimination laws? Well, people basically lose their job if you're a Christian and you have certain convictions. How do you define this? It will make it impossible for what? A Christian. Notice how they protect the LGBT community at from any kind of thing that might hurt them in any way, shape, or form, or anything that might point out that it is a sinful lifestyle. And also they have homophobia, transphobia, all these other so-called phobias, but they also have Islamophobia. It's interesting that the leftists and the liberals, they will support Islam, which calls for worldwide conquest and violent warfare around the world, and for every civilization to be brought to ashes, and for Islam to rule the world, and they have no problem throwing homosexuals off buildings. However, the leftists are supporting that, and what are they also supporting? The LGBT community. Interesting. What do they have in common? They hate the word of God. Otherwise, it makes no sense whatsoever. Now, you might think, big deal, they've been trying to do this for years and years. I just want to give you another example of funding that has gone and changed the way countries view LGBT issues. Now, just give you a bit of, also, the Human Rights Campaign is one of the largest civil rights organizations in America, and they're promoting LGBT, and look how much has changed in the United States. Now, and who's involved in this initiative? Google Incorporated, AT&T, Coca-Cola, IBM, Microsoft, Procter & Gamble. Not exactly small companies, are they? A group, I think many people are aware of the Irish vote. It was a huge historic vote where it was the first vote in history for the popular vote, and for example, in the United States it was different. It was the Supreme Court de facto becoming its own dictatorship in a 5-4 vote, forcing same-sex marriage on the entire country. In Ireland, it was different due to a lot of activism that was funded by a group known as the Atlantic Philanthropies, started by a man by the name of Chuck Feeney, who very unknown for a very long time, and has been and this group, the Atlantic Philanthropies, has been funding a lot of building projects and a lot of behind the scenes things, often anonymously, since the 1980s. Very much shaping modern Ireland. They're a huge hand in modern Ireland. There's actually a documentary about Chuck Feeney on their website if you want to look through it. Now, the thing is, how has the Atlantic Philanthropies and their funding changed Ireland? They produced this document a number of years ago talking about how from 2004 to 2013, it says here from 2004 to 2013, this is a document they produced, the Atlantic Philanthropies provided grants funding to support equality, quote-unquote equality, and visibility for lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender LGBT people in Ireland. Atlantic focused its funding on a cluster of 4 organizations with the objective to improving LGBT communities' access to rights and services. And I've gone through in a number of shows the mythology of how that the LGBT community is even looking for monogamous, faithful relationships. It is a minority of a minority. It is tiny, and if you see the percentage of people who are even interested in civil partnerships, the number is tiny. I think it's like, I don't know, something like 1 or 2% maximum of the entire population. What we're going on is Alfred Kinsey's fraudulent research, which says that the homosexual community or the LGBT community is 10% of the population. That number has never been verified. That number has never been duplicated. Any way, shape, or form, whatever way you want to put it, it is sinful in God's eyes. Marriage between one man and woman for life, and these wealthy businessmen, and they're involved in a lot of different groups, a lot of it's secretive. They want to change society in their own image. And it's an ugly society that they want to create. They're not going to tell it openly, but this is what they want to create. It says in the next paragraph, the LGBT cluster included the gay and lesbian equality group, Glenn. None of this is grassroots. This is all funding from American philanthropists, headed by Glenn Whedon. And there's not Glenn Whedon, what's the guy's name again? Chuck Feeney. I just saw a documentary about him tonight. And let's go back to the document here. They also marriage equality. You see, the thing is, since the 1980s, and there's a documentary produced by RT, which is the terrestrial station in Ireland. It's like the equivalent of the BBC in Ireland. That since the 1980s, this group has been funding, it funded the building of Limerick University back in the 1980s. Chuck Feeney gave up billions, to this group, and they have been funding projects and groups targeting changing society. Now, I'm not talking about the building of the university or anything like that, but they have been a huge influence, and anonymously, up until a couple of years ago, nobody knew who Chuck Feeney was. And this has changed a number of years ago. How has it changed? Ireland legalized sodomy in 1993. In how long? And then a number of years ago, I think it was either 2010, 2011, I think it was 2011, you had civil partnerships. And they always say at each stage, it's not going to go further than that. And then what do they do straight away afterwards? Oh, now we want marriage. Where next? Also, I just want to play this video about the influence this group, Atlantic Philanthropies, is having in Ireland, and they've been working in a number of countries. Just to give you an example, the Clintons are much more powerful. Google is much more powerful. And if you think that they cannot make, because, I mean, look, Hillary Clinton is going for president of the United States. And through that foundation and other things that they're trying to do, the Clintons are trying to, and through Google and other companies like that, make it impossible for anybody to work in these jobs or any other kind of jobs who is in any way against this sinful lifestyle. They are aggressive towards it. It's quite obviously they hate biblical Christianity, and this is the common enemy. This is the common enemy. Let's look at this as it points towards the work that they are doing, destroying the Irish family in Ireland.
In thinking through how these organizations have managed to achieve so much in a relatively short space of time, I think it's really that they've had the capacity to think and act strategically. So providing core funding on an annual, multi-annual basis allows organizations to build relationships with those that they're seeking to influence and build up the expertise as well.
That's what I would say. Aiming to influence. Lots of money has been invested in Ireland in order to change it and create it what it is today.
In order to become a resource to decision makers and others.
Atlantic's multi-year commitment allowed for AT&T to employ core staff, which was unprecedented in the trans community.
The Atlantic support in the first instance has been a support for the vision of marriage equality. In some ways, we've done two things. We have unleashed that potential and that passion that the supporters of marriage equality have. But more than that, we've been able to channel it into political change. And that's, I think, the legacy.
One of the most moving things about the work that Atlantic enabled Glenn to do is seeing lesbian and gay couples stand up in front of their families and commit to each other, and to do so, to express their love in a public way.
What commitment is there in the LGBT community? And I have gone through in the radio show, and go back to the old radio shows, figures from the upper class, like kind of like mainstream advocate homosexual magazine. From their own statistics, it is a minority. Promiscuity is the norm in the LGBT community.
That's never been able to happen in Ireland before, and that's radically changing lesbian and gay people and their sense of who and where they are in Ireland, and it's changing Ireland for the better.
You feel the power that comes from all of the organisations working together.
It's left a legacy of positive change, including that sense of LGBT organisations around the country working together. So the inspiration of confidence and the belief that as a community we can work together, that's a big, big legacy to leave.
Happy Pride!
Okay. Just going to leave you one verse from the scriptures, Romans 1:32, who knowing the judgment of God, and they that commit such things are worthy of death, not only do the same, but have pleasure in them that do them. May God have mercy on in the United States, on Ireland. This is the influence. And what they're trying to do, all these organizations, they pump money into education. They want your kids. They want you to give over your kids so that they can educate them, educate the next generation, so that they can have the world created over in their God-hating image. Maybe be wise to what they're doing. Maybe follow the word of God, and may we be on our knees, crying out to God for his mercy to open the eyes of the people who support this abomination. And may God be merciful on these islands and also unto all the nations across the world. This has been Paul Flynn. Talk to you at the weekend.